The naturalistic tradition. The third perspective in moral philosophy which has been chosen as a subject for reading in this volume in naturalistic ethics. The naturalistic tradition, or we call the naturalistic ethics. As a worldview, philosophical naturalism claims that the universe does not require any supernatural cause, conservation, or government. Furthermore, naturalism declares that the world itself existed and capable of its own direction. So, naturalism in philosophy, a theory that relates scientific method to philosophy by affirming that all beings and events in the universe, whatever their inherent character may be, are natural. Consequently, all knowledge of the universe falls within the field of scientific investigation. The naturalist. The naturalists also seek to explain all mental and spiritual life as ordinary operation of nature without any need of supernatural event or ordinary events or sanction. That is, that natural object be influenced by the so-called supernatural entities in a detectable way. Naturalistic ethics. Naturalistic ethics is the moral theory that considers ethics to be essentially an empirical science of human conduct, value, and obligation. The word empirical means precisely that the naturalistic moralist seeks to believe claims on relevant findings of the behavior sciences, sociology, anthropology, and psychology, and the natural sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics. And this is the fundamental of the behavioral of sciences, or we can say that it is a significant behavioral sciences. Without which the pursuit of scientific knowledge would be absurd. And considerable stimulation to the perspective of naturalism was provided by the publication of Charles Darwin's Origin of Species in 1859. Darwin, 1809 to 82, established his theory of the evolution of man from brute animal ancestor by his principle of natural selection. From this principle, some philosophers concluded that the survival of the fittest species by the natural selection is a scientific fact that makes the presence of a provident and conserving God no longer necessary. The some principle also stressed the kinship of man with nature and has influenced philosophers to view man totally in terms of nature in this world. Finally, since Darwin saw nature as read in thought and claw, many naturalists such as Dewey have stressed the risk man takes in his dealing with a world that cannot always be expected to be friendly and necessity. Therefore, for man to use his intelligence to the utmost, it must quickly be added, however, that this is humanism does not imply any indifference to a supreme power or to nature. Instead, the general conclusion represented in philosophy is that the unity of a man and heaven. There is in nature regularity unity, and wholeness that implies objective laws without which the pursuit of
This is reporter Salazar, continuing the Naturalistic Tradition report. Naturalism teaches one of the most important things in this world. There is only this life, so live wonderfully and meaningfully. Great graph. So, what is naturalistic tradition again? Naturalistic ethics is the moral theory that considers ethics to be essentially an empirical science of human conduct, value, and obligation. The word empirical means precisely that the naturalistic moralist seeks to base his claims on relevant findings of the behavioral sciences and the natural sciences. Also, the naturalists stress the risk, hazards, and appearance of novelty in the universe. He agreed with the Greek and Christian philosophers who held that there are some stabilities in the world and that through the scientific method some objective knowledge of the world can be gained. What is stable for one age, however, may be outdated for another. Since man and universe are constantly evolving, the naturalists considered any Hegelian attempt to find out all the secrets of the world once and for all an impossible endeavor. Charles Darwin emphasized on the evolution of all beings, in the world so to say that nothing stays the same forever. He quoted, I think it is inevitably follows that as new species in the course of time are formed through natural selection, others will become rarer and rarer and finally extinct. The form which stand in closest competition with those undergoing modification and improvement will naturally suffer most. He means that stability is not applicable to all things as things evolve or improve. Also, the naturalist will justly insist on the function of reason as an instrument for successful encounter with a world of risk and uncertainty. We must refuse to characterize him as thinking that the world is changing so fast that no stability is possible, no continuity available. For in this tradition, the very acquisition of stability and equilibrium is the price of a reason informed by scientific methods. The naturalist is in no sense an irresponsible relativist. So it is said that the world is ever changing. We will not think like there is no stability and continuity, because through scientific method, the acquisition of stability and equilibrium is there. Of course, it's not thinking that the world is just going through a fast process of changing, because at some point of time there is stability on those times as well. Two of our country's greatest philosophers, John Dewey and George Santayana, were naturalists. Dewey's naturalistic emphasis can be found in a developed form in such works as Experience and Nature and The Quest for Certainty. Santayana, Santayana's philosophy is well expressed in The Life of Reason and Skepticism and Animal Faith. Other important American naturalists Sidney Hook, Abraham Edel, Ernest Nagel, John Herman Randall, Jr., and Maurice R. Cohen. John Dewey's Experience and Nature quoted, "Experience presents itself as the method, and the only method for getting at nature, penetrating its secrets, and wherein nature empirically discloses deepens, enriches, and directs the further development of experience." Also, his book The Quest for Certainty every quoted, "Every great advance in science has issued from a new audacity of imagination. Expertness of taste is at once the result and reward for constant exercises of thinking." This represents John Dewey's emphasis on naturalism based on the quotes in his book and to his pragmatism. Santayana's philosophy on naturalism is based on individual's moral perspective are of equal standing. George Santayana's quotes in his book called The Life of Reason quoted, "Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it." The fact of having born is a bad augury for our mortality. Also, his book Skepticism and Animal Faith quoted, "The empiricist thinks he believes only what he sees, but he's much better at believing than at seeing." So that's all for Reporter Salazar for Naturalistic Tradition. And these are the last quotes for Theodoros by Theodoros Belt. There are no words that can tell the hidden spirit of the wilderness, that can reveal its mystery, its melancholy, and its charm.
Good day, everyone. My name is Kent Brian Ibardone, and my assigned topic is all about perspective on key issues. So, in the analysis of the positions, we shall concentrate on naturalism of John Dewey because he expressed the naturalistic temper in classical manner. So, who is John Dewey? John Dewey was a psychologist, philosopher, and educator who made contributions to numerous topics in philosophy and psychology. His work continues to inform modern philosophy and educational practice today. So, I have two topics to discuss, and the first is value. When we say value, it is concerned with the nature of goodness in general, of which moral goodness is one species. So Dewey insisted that value proceeds from the reflective analysis of the novelty presented to each generation. Man seeks to construct with nature by intelligence. He increases his own value as well as the nature by the quality of the solutions he brings in answer to the felt needs in his life. So it means that by seeking an on nature, we as humans can gain knowledge, and these learnings can improve to our lives, and it enables us to survive with values and achieving our goals in identifying method for improving our value of judgments. Next, the supreme value is attained when the intellectual mediation of the challenges offered by the world is successful. Dewey gives his analysis of value in the selection, reconstructive of moral conceptions. A chapter takes from his book Construction in Philosophy in 1920. When we say reconstructive of moral conception, yeah, this is the one of the most cogent appeals ever made for rethinking the nature and point of philosophy as it has been conceived and practiced since the time of Plato. The next topic I discuss is obligation. When we say obligation, it means a moral requirement to follow a certain course of action, that is to do or refrain from doing certain things. In this selection, Dewey also speaks on obligation. His general principle is that each man is obligated to action and responsibility in strict proportion to the cultivation of his mind and the power of his reflective intelligence. It means that man must be knowledgeable enough in doing action and responsibility, especially in morality of a person towards others. Dewey also writes, "The good man is the man who, no matter how morally unworthy, he has been moving to become better. The bad man is the man who, no matter how good he has been in the beginning, to deteriorate, to grow less good." So, meaning doing a good deed, especially for others, helps us make a positive impact in society. And all the same time, it helps us feel good about ourselves that we could make a contribution no matter how big or small it is. Doing good also can build our reputation of a moralistic person who has values and ideals towards others. So that's all for my report. Thank you for listening.
This is Zaljan Evangelista, and this is my part. Natural law. The norm of morality is also given an objective character in the work of Dewey and the other naturalists. Dewey believed that neither traditional moral norms nor traditional philosophical ethics were able to cope with the problems raised by the dramatic transformations. Traditional morality was adapted to conditions that no longer existed. High-bound and unreflective. It was incapable of charging to address the problems raised new circumstances. Although it has objective reference to the sciences of men, it is not considered impervious to change, nor it is a binding in the same was on all men. Traditional philosophical ethics sought to discover and justify fixed moral goals and principles by dogmatic methods. Its preoccupation with reducing the diverse sources of moral insights to a single fixed principles subordinated practical service to ordinary people to the futile search for certainty, stability, and simplicity. With Dewey, the norm and the natural law take on a social character. That action is lawful that will mitigate the risks and dangers of situations confronting men and society. To address the problem raised by social change, moral practice need to be acquired the position to respond intelligently to new circumstances. Dewey saw his reconstruction of philosophical ethics as a means to effect this practical reconstruction. It would be inadequate to speak of this as plea of adjustment. It is more an active solving of a pressing crisis than a fatalistic submission of what we are assumed to be insoluble situations. Lewis ethics replaces the goal of identifying an ultimate end or supreme ethical principle with the goal of identifying a method for improving our value judgments. Thus, the naturalist insists that no society or individual can gain through moral life without constantly employing intelligent reflection to make the necessary revisions of traditional theory to meet his own requirements and those of society. There is a strong conviction among naturalists that we must avoid the past answers of the past wisdom and be more reflective and experimental in the cases of social disorder such as crime and delinquency. Dewey argued that ethical inquiry is the use of reflective intelligence to revise our judgments in the light of the consequences of acting on them. Value judgments are tools for satisfactory reflecting conduct when habits fail. In these problematic areas, we were advised to learn from psychology, sociology, and anthropology. It must be remembered that to the naturalist, the word natural immediately implies change, process, novelty, and risks, not a fixed and final norm whose dictates our timelines. We make moral progress by adopting habits of perfectly revising our value judgments in response to the widest consequences for everyone of the following them. The conditions of warrant for value judgments lies in human conduct, not in any a priori fixed reference point outside of conduct, such as God's commands, Platonic forms, pure reason, or nature. Dewey offers a naturalistic method of value judgments, grounded in development and social psychology.
From the description of the good man and the bad man in Dewey's reconstruction in philosophy, it can be seen in the supreme good quality to be found in the man is the development of those values that the reason itself approves. Related to this, and referred to the same selection, is an attitude which Dewey calls Millerism. We must not be foolish optimists and imagine evil can be overcome easily and without intelligence. Neither can we be pessimists and assume that the evil is overwhelming and that we are powerless before it. The middle attitude of the Millerism is the ability to struggle little by little to make one's lot and the world itself better. A final necessary virtue is what Dewey calls sensitivity to the unique character of every moral situation. This virtue is a kind of flexibility, a recognition of the truth that each situation, each man, or each problem possesses a unique style and structure. Opposed to this virtue is the supposition that all problems are the same, all men are alike, and nothing is new under the sun. The concept of a virtue is the concept of something that makes the possessor good. A virtuous person is a morally good, excellent, or admirable person who acts and feels as she should. These are the commonly accepted truisms. A virtue is a trait or quality that is deemed to be morally good, and thus the value as a foundation or principle in good moral being. In other words, it is a behavior that shows high moral standards, doing what is right and avoiding what is wrong. Lastly, the opposite of virtue is a vice.